Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You're in a small wooden cottage deep in a medieval village. Outside, the fields are quiet, and the only sound is the distant bark of a dog. Inside, the fire has burned down to glowing embers, casting a faint orange light across the room. You and your family have gone to bed early, hours ago, right after sunset, because the night is long and there is no reason to stay awake in the dark. But around midnight, something curious happens. Your eyes open. You don't feel restless or anxious. You feel calm, even alert. The room is hushed but not silent. Someone quietly tends to the fire. Another family member whispers a prayer. Perhaps you step outside for a breath of cold night air and see the stars shining brightly overhead. After an hour or two, you climb back under your blanket. Sleep comes easily, almost naturally, and you drift back into a second, deeper slumber until the first light of dawn. This, my friends, was the nightly rhythm for countless people across the medieval world. They didn't sleep in one long stretch like we do today. Instead, they followed a pattern of 2 sleeps, what historians call segmented sleep. And tonight we're going to travel back in time and explore this forgotten way of sleeping. Why did medieval people divide their night in 2? What did they do in the mysterious hours between first and second sleep? And why did this natural rhythm quietly disappear from our modern lives? The answers will surprise you and maybe even change the way you think about your own nights. Before we dive into segmented sleep, we need to understand the medieval night itself. Today, we take artificial light for granted. Street lamps, glowing phone screens, 24-hour stores. Our nights are never truly dark. But for people in the Middle Ages, night was a completely different experience. Once the sun set, darkness fell quickly. A family might light a small fire or use candles made from tallow or beeswax, but these were precious resources not to be wasted. Light was dim and costly. For most people, night meant retreating indoors, seeking warmth and safety. And the night was long, much longer than we experience today. In winter, darkness could stretch 14 to 16 hours. Imagine trying to sleep straight through such a long night without waking. It's almost impossible. So instead, people slipped into a rhythm, first sleep after sunset, a waking period around midnight, and then a second sleep until dawn. This wasn't seen as unusual, it was simply the way life worked. You might be wondering, how do we know this? Did medieval people really talk about it? The answer is yes, constantly. Historical records are full of references to first sleep and second sleep. In 15th century England, a physician might prescribe rest after your first sleep. In France, a poet might casually describe rising after the first sleep to write verses. Even in Italy, court documents sometimes mention crimes committed between the first and second sleep, as if this midnight waking was an entirely ordinary part of life. The historian Roger E. Kirch was the first to bring all this evidence together. In his book, At Day's Close, Night in Times Past, he uncovered hundreds of references across Europe, showing that segmented sleep was not only common, but deeply woven into daily life. It wasn't just in Europe either. Anthropologists studying traditional societies, such as some communities in Africa and South America, found similar patterns. Where electricity hasn't reshaped daily schedules, people often still follow a 2-sleep cycle. The most fascinating part of segmented sleep is not the 2 blocks of slumber, it is what happened in between. That waking period, sometimes lasting 1 or 2 hours, was far from wasted. It was a precious pocket of time, often described as peaceful, contemplative, and even magical. Here are some of the things people did during the midnight gap. Number 1. Prayer and reflection. Religion shaped medieval life, and night was no exception. Monks in monasteries had scheduled prayers at midnight called matins or vigils. Ordinary villagers, too, used this time for private devotion. They believed prayers offered in the quiet of the night were especially powerful. Number 2, household chores. Practical tasks also filled the gap. Families rekindled the fire to keep warm, checked on livestock, or prepared food for the coming day. Women might nurse infants or mend clothing. Number 3, intimacy and family. Time, believe it or not, medical texts from the Middle Ages often recommended the hours between first and second sleep as the best time for intimacy. People were rested from their first sleep but not yet sluggish, making this the ideal moment for closeness. Number 4, study and creativity. For the wealthy, who owned books or had access to writing materials, the midnight hours were a time for study. Some poets and scholars even claimed they did their best thinking during these quiet hours. Dreams from the first sleep lingered in their minds, sparking creativity. Number 5, community and socializing. In some villages, neighbors visited each other during the midnight gap. Imagine knocking on your friend's door at 1 in the morning today. It would seem bizarre. But back then, it was normal. The midnight hours belonged to the community as much as the day did. This waking period wasn't seen as insomnia or a problem. It was expected, welcomed, and woven into the rhythm of life. So, why exactly did people adopt segmented sleep? Several reasons make perfect sense once we think about life before electricity. Our bodies are naturally inclined to wake after a few hours of sleep. Modern experiments prove this. When people are placed in environments with no artificial light, only natural cycles of daylight and darkness, they spontaneously develop segmented sleep. Their bodies follow the same rhythm medieval people once did. In a world where fire hazards were common, waking in the middle of the night to check on flames was a matter of survival. It also allowed families to protect livestock or guard against intruders. Once segmented sleep became common, it reinforced itself. Medical advice, religious practices, and social customs all supported the idea. Parents raised children to expect it, and so the cycle continued for centuries. In winter, nights were simply too long for one continuous sleep. Without segmented sleep, people would either spend hours tossing restlessly or risk sleeping far too much. If 2 sleeps were so natural, why don't we do it today? The answer lies in the Industrial Revolution. When factories spread across Europe and America in the 18th and 19th centuries, strict work schedules demanded consistent rest. People had to wake early for factory shifts, and segmented sleep no longer fit with rigid industrial time. At the same time, artificial lighting changed everything. Gas lamps and later electric bulbs extended daylight into the night. People could work or socialize late into the evening. Bedtime shifted later, leaving less room for 2 sleeps. By the late 19th century, segmented sleep had quietly disappeared from much of the Western world. Monophasic sleep, one long stretch, became the new normal, and within a few generations people forgot that humans had ever slept differently. Even though segmented sleep has vanished, traces of it linger in our lives today. If you ever wake in the middle of the night and struggle to fall back asleep, don't panic. It may not be insomnia. It may simply be your body remembering an ancient rhythm. In countries like Spain, Italy, or Greece, the tradition of the afternoon siesta still survives. In a way, this is a cousin of segmented sleep, dividing rest into separate periods instead of cramming it into one long block. Some modern individuals experiment with multiple short sleep cycles, often for productivity. While extreme, these methods echo humanity's older, more flexible relationship with sleep. Many people today notice that they feel unusually thoughtful or creative in the middle of the night if they wake. This mirrors the clarity medieval people described during the midnight gap. So, what can we learn from our ancestors' 2-sleep habit? Number 1. Waking in the night is natural. Instead of stressing when you wake at 3 a.m., you might embrace it. Get up, drink water, jot down your thoughts, meditate, and then return to sleep naturally. Number 2, respect natural light. The closer we align our sleep with natural cycles of light and dark, the healthier our rhythms may become. Dimming screens and lights before bed can help mimic the world our ancestors knew. Number 3, use the midnight gap. The medieval midnight was a time of reflection, prayer, and creativity. Perhaps waking in the night today can be reframed as an opportunity, not a problem. So tonight, as you prepare for sleep, remember, for most of history, humans didn't rest in one unbroken stretch. They embraced the rhythm of first sleep and second sleep, with a peaceful, thoughtful pause in between. Imagine yourself in a medieval cottage, the fire glowing softly, the night stretching deep and silent outside. You've just finished your first sleep, and now you have an hour of stillness, time to think, pray, or simply breathe. Then when your body is ready, you return to bed and sink into your second, deeper rest. Far from being strange or broken, this rhythm connected people across centuries. It was a way of living in harmony with the natural world, with darkness, and with themselves. So the next time you wake in the middle of the night, don't feel restless. Smile, knowing you're sharing in a tradition as old as humanity itself. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let the wisdom of 2 sleeps guide you gently back to rest.